Yes. Hello? Yes.
UTHOL is chosen and not
What was the first one?
AUTHOL.
Yep, on the speaker,
Okay.
and then Dante on the microphone.
We usually bring 10 forward. So I think that is something.
Are you willing to place some condition on that?
You know, they're events that, these are the types of events that are happening. The events that would happen there are the events, kinds of events that are already happening. And you're creating mostly sponsored by the Jewish life, so those are like slow schedule.
Weekend weddings and things like that on there?
Don't believe in having any weddings on that. Marriage for Jewish life when they're having their high holidays and just like family celebrations on parents and graduation.
If it rains, there are gonna be a lot of safer spots. Right around the Evansville, around our city.
What I know you're concerned about the noise. There's still going to be noise. And where we'll like sound shooting the other way. So I was a tour manager for a band for like 11 years. So backstage is definitely so much quieter in festivals than front, right? So behind it, they do have acoustics built in to help dampen it. And plus, now we have larger cover. So I know the noise is still going to happen, but I would almost guarantee it's going to be more or less noisy than if it was facing her house with it flat. And I think what we're anticipating or thinking of is loudspeakers just booming and throwing a traditional college party. But I don't know if this is going to be a college party area.
Yeah, I mean, the Chabad Center is, relatively close to my neighborhood, and they have huge they're very family oriented events.
I do want to mention that our electrical panel is not sized to bring any amplification. So we're not going to be bringing in outside speakers or anything for events. It's strictly for lighting.
And you could serve alcohol as well. I don't expect that crowd to get rowdy.
Yes, it's a university sanctioned event. There could be alcohol service.
So this evening, you are looking for us to vote with those conditions. Can you bring those back up?
I agree with being out of compliance with the LGO, but the town and hot water with this.
There we go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Communication prior to university sanctioning application. So we're looking for a motion to approve with the now 6 conditions.
I will.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all for working together on that. All right, moving on to petition CRZ 2022-004, Park East conditional rezoning. Just a second.
I know, I don't have anything to add. I wasn't given any homework on this case, but I'll be glad to get up and answer any questions that you might have, or the developer and his team are here as well.
All right. Yeah. Let's see here. I do have a couple of things that I had several neighbors in the Spanish Oaks neighborhood reach out around a couple of different concerns. So Public information and knowledge, since we did, I asked specifically that if anybody had additional feedback between then and now, so please bring that my direction. So let me see here. There were concerns about why the developer was not attempting to exit through University Drive. And that is due to limited access on University Drive. And also just the hillside being as steep as it is over there. So University Drive is limited access, as I mentioned. So typically they work from allowable access points that were developed during the development of University Drive itself. So that one we discussed with them. Another conversation was, could the town prevent the development from leading into Cable Road? The answer to that is no, we don't have the ability to do that, for the fact that the property sold actually goes up to Cable Road. So they have the same right to access Cable Road as anyone else living on Cable Road because it was sold to them. Am I describing that correctly, Lori?
Yes.
Let's see here. There were concerns relating to damage to wells due to development. But, you know, really there's no evidence to support that in this area. Did we have any more follow-up from the town engineer on that one between then and now? Yeah, there have been conversations about other areas in Alamance County where development has led to the collapse of wells in certain areas. But Lori, to your knowledge, there was not evidence of that. Let's see here. A couple of people brought up the possibility of future utilities and annexation, which again, I think we would have to have a broader conversation about that. Just so everyone knows, there is no forced annexation in North Carolina, so we can't say that, oh, you're in our ETJ, so now we're gonna make you the town. So there's a process to that and certain specifications that have to be adhered to. Some of the property owners in Spanish Oaks have asked if the developer was engaged in any contractual agreements with the university, so I shared that I would ask that question. Thank you. That is it, other than, you know, just general concerns for safety. You know, obviously there will be more people on the streets that have safety concerns. One individual, Jeremy, did wonder what the thought process was of, can we bring up the so currently on Cable Road, you have a buffer. So what type of buffer will that be is a question, and then I'll get to the rest of the question as well.
On Cable Road, there's a detail provided in that packet. It demonstrates what the buffer section would look like. Here, like this label was a 20-foot buffer along the northern and southern edges, and a 30-foot buffer section along Cable Road, where we're preserving the existing vegetation. We're also offering to augment that with
So you'd be utilizing some of the larger trees that are currently there
That's
and then
correct.
pairing that with the evergreen underneath.
There's a lot of oaks, there's a lot of maples, some hickories through there, and so we're trying to retain that, preserve it. We created some source of woodland and privacy between us and them. You know, it's 30 feet, but it is 30 feet, and then I'm getting it, the evergreen material supplement at the understory.
And then the question also around the buffer was, had you ever considered having homes face Cable Road versus their backyards?
Taking all the trees. I mean, when I originally looked at the site, I wanted to retain some sense of segregation. To break up the landscape, the existing material, I thought was the best.
And then was it included as a condition around the water line and sewer going to Cable Road? Is that in there as a condition or?
The sewer line is stubbed basically at the intersection. The water line is something we offer. It's not a requirement. It's an all, neighborhood meeting, we heard from several of the homeowners in the neighborhood that they had subpar wells and they had water quality issues. But they were all very adamant they did not want to be annexed. So we as a team thought it was a nice offering gesture for the town, using the water line on our frontage. It's there for everybody's benefit. Just to come along, extend it at a later date. It's there. It's free. It's from us.
And then in terms of traffic calming coming from the main street through the neighborhood to Cable Road, I think that you had discussed that it would narrow there. Is there a narrowing of the road there for traffic calming and stop sign?
So we have two checking devices that are proposed, and I'm gonna go to this screen because
There's the thing does have a light on it.
one.
Yeah, I have it circled. It's where that like black dotted line comes down through the road, right? That's the one with the raised crosswalk.
So where the red line is would be one, and where this crosswalk would be the second. So there's two. That road, I believe, is roughly 2,200 feet long. So there would be stop conditions at each end, and you can see that there's curvature in the road, two curves. So you've got two stop signs, two curves, you've got two traffic calming devices, traffic chokers, and then you have a crosswalk that are already committed. So that's
And there's
basically
a,
like,
but there's a stop, right? Coming out and there at.
there would be a stop sign, and there would be a stop sign at Shuttle. So, yes, well, so there is no table, there's no speed table, there is. That's at the crosswalks, right? So right now, raised crosswalks. Right now, what we're offering is a cross gives the neighbors and council and mayor comfort to do it. At that crosswalk.
Yeah, I have it circled, raised crosswalk at that, where the like black dotted line comes down between where like the yellow lots and the red lots are.
That's the bike trail, right? Yeah, that's where the Greenway Trail comes through. We would have, what's proposed, it's in this visual, it's a crosswalk. But again, we could do the crosswalk section. That gives pretty comfort.
And they work on campus. You know, like,
Probably. I thought that was.
so can we, do you agree to that as a condition?
We've got some visuals.
Okay.
Yes. you were doing it where that crosswalk was, not like closer to the cable road. We're gonna do it. Which I think is still the best place, because I think that was slow everything down. I think that's the logical. That's the most logical.
Are we talking about the same location? Are you talking about the red line?
No, we're talking about
The black
where the bike.
dotted line that comes
Yeah,
down?
where-
Okay, that's where I have the circle. Okay. Okay.
And it's got crosswalk lane.
And I ask a question, obviously we're talking about the greenway, and I think it's a great thing, great addition. I do wonder why you're not utilizing the land. It's like, it runs parallel with the university. I was over the other day, it's just low land, it's woodland. I don't know how far back your lots are, it looks like here, that there's space for that greenway where we effective. You would connect Shelbyville along University back to your property, and then if the university wanted to continue that across to their property, it would be an asset.
I can't remember how far the topography falls off.
Well, I looked at it, it's all level. This road's up here, it's down there, it's like a valley. It's all pretty level.
But it says on here, no through trail access to University Drive due to topographic challenges.
So I'm talking about parallel,
Oh, so come along there.
parallel, because that would solve a lot of things. In Park West, if someone wanted to use that access walking trail, they would have to go through the neighborhood. They could go through the neighborhood, they could tie into your existing land greenway. Seems like a lot of land is kind of wasted, to be utilized for something.
I would be fearful to make that commitment with topography the way it is and the numerous stream feature crossings that you have to navigate. If you go farther north, you are planning on doing a raised boardwalk across that feature. But I would be,
Well, I guess what I've got is if the town at some point in time decided to expand our walkways and our trails, that'd be problematic for land here. Because what you wouldn't want to do is infringe on his neighbors there. Put a 10-foot trail just right on the back of the property. And that's what I was wondering. It seems like an activity that we don't have. The Park West, Campbell Road, Caroline Road.
coming from this station, I know more about it. Probably be a new green trail and probably need walls and other things.
I'm not a civil engineer. I looked at it. It looks like it's pretty flat land. Where that road was built up, it's a drop off.
Yes.
But it's been mowed back. Part of it's actually been mowed. I think the university probably does. So something to think about.
Was that meant to be a beginning of that trail anyway, or was that meant to be like that? Is there a place to extend that?
So you look at, as I understand, and
I know the other side.
I believe that Greenway Trail moves farther north of the property. So this is the first leg.
That's the first thing.
Is there a sidewalk coming from the neighborhood to join with the other sidewalks that you're doing across the street?
So we are proposing sidewalk on both sides of our street that we're there. We actually have it running down. You can see the sidewalk running down the side of Shallowford there. at that intersection.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
And the approvals from DOT on Park Northwest were for a crosswalk on the westerly side of that intersection. Not two crosswalks on University.
I think we're still going through that approval process.
Okay. Okay.
I was under the understanding that sidewalk so far for us were better on the easterly side.
I'm talking about getting across University.
Yeah. I'm talking about, if you're looking at that sidewalk.
believe I spoke to all of the concerns that have been shared. Well, no, I didn't. Obviously, if, through the process, Lori, if there are any additional safety measures that we determine need to be in place, just make sure that concern of the Spanish Oaks neighborhood is just safety. Their way of life is, they walk in the streets, they don't have sidewalks. They seem to be a really great community that come out and talk to each other, and just whatever we can do to make sure that as much of their way of life is retained as possible, and any safety measures. Another thing that I've shared with a couple of the neighbors, I don't know how much influence we have with NCDOT, but whatever we can to see if there are improvements to that road that can be made, especially in the areas that were brought up as areas of concern. I know there's the turn, there's the area where there's a lot of ice in the winter. So just whatever we can do with DOT to see if we can get some improvements there.
And likewise, the safety issues you were to be talking to DOT about those as well.
Yeah, but then also there's signage that the neighborhood is allowed to invest in signage, along the road, just to see what can be done, what is allowable. Like, is there an opportunity for a no through traffic sign? Granted, it's just a sign, right? That if you put a stop sign up, not everyone stops, but maybe if you put a no through traffic sign up, it would at least deter some of the traffic from going through. So. Other comments, questions? Am I gonna talk? All right, and you're requesting a vote this evening on that?
Yes, I am. And but go back. There we go. And I do have,
I think the plan was,
grab the stick. You need another one?
not sure their decision. I'm saying their decision is not. But I did see a lot of strong reasons that this project is not. So I understand that they certainly shared their concerns. Some of these concerns I think have been addressed, safety, crosswalks. I met with some of the community people out there, and I just talked to them. I said, our LEO right now, as it is, can allow a lot more density in that space. And from what I see, there's not the density that could be there. Is that a good thing? Maybe, but it's not as bad as it could be. I don't think we have the ability to vote against it based on conditions that we presented back to them and them to us. I don't know that. I don't think it's contradicting the plan we did. I want to be on record that, I appreciate the work they did to put into that. A lot of work, a lot of back and forth. So I don't want them to think that whatever we decide is reflected on their work.
One other point I did want to make, because I said that I would share this. So, based off of what is allowable by right. So I know I mentioned this a little bit in our last meeting, is what they can put there without us even approving it is much more than what they're asking for. And we asked the question about why, but just so you all know, there was at one point a potentially proposed plan that included 6,000 square feet of restaurant space, 37,500 square feet of commercial space, 32,000 square feet of office space, 47 single-family residential homes, 7 single-family cottage-style homes, 25 multifamily units, 36 apartments, and 5 Lake Park units. So that comes to about the same number of residential units, but then plus the restaurant, office, and retail space, which would bring way more traffic and density compared to what has been proposed in the conditional rezoning. And so I think that, you know, I had shared with a couple of people who had shared their concerns, and I said, what we're really determining is this. Do we want what's currently allowed, or do we want something better? And in my opinion, I don't have a vote, but in my opinion, what is being proposed is a better option than what can go there. Because again, 70,000 square feet of office and retail space and 6,000 square feet of restaurant space. That's a lot of extra people in a neighborhood, in addition to, you know, to 400 so expected based on averages for single family homes. Not 400 homes, 400 individuals in that neighborhood. So I just wanted to share that. I knew that was a concern.
I think this is a good formula because, you know, right now in Alamance County, things are moving. Obviously, revenue is this way as well. I think that is clear by, so we're seeing here. I think that if we were to deny this, you know, for something much denser and cause a lot more concerns. I think the area being developed is based on.
You're looking for that.
I would. I did include possible motions for you on the screen. I would state that if you decide to vote in approval, I've included that it's with the requested deviations and proper conditions. I would add to include the condition that you mentioned about the raised speed table at the crosswalk. And then read either whichever verbiage you feel is appropriate, whether you vote to approve or deny. I've given suggested motions, just that it's a conditional zoning. I'd like some justification with the vote to approve or deny.
You must read that whole paragraph.
One of them, if you vote to approve or vote to deny, either one. I just asked if you vote to approve to remember to also include that extra condition you discussed tonight, if you want to add that.
Yeah, I'm ready to. Based upon the idea that they have downsized what they could do, based upon the plan that I see, and with these extra proffered conditions. The proposed conditional district zoning has specific site constraints, has an acceptable level of impact, immediate area, and the community is furthermore, the action is reasonable in the public interest because the uses allowed in the proposed conditional zoning district are compatible with the area. Future land use map contained within 2040 Envision Elon Comprehensive Land Use Plan shall identify this site as a neighborhood living, parks, open space, conservation area, which the submitted project addresses and supports with this design. I would just add that there will be an extra raised speed table.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? have a second? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. I know that it is not what you wanted. We understand it. Nobody wants a new development in their backyard. We understand that. It would have happened one way or the other, and I hope that you see that what we approved is better than what we would have liked otherwise. So, thank you. And if anybody wants to leave, you're welcome. We'd love for you to stay.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp, for listening to all of us. Appreciate it. That's what happened. It's gonna happen. Thank you. Please do something. Kids cross this wall.
We will have some discussions with DOT. I can guarantee.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. Letter A, transferring remaining revenue bond money from the purchase of the Travis Creek pump station into water and sewer fund.
Mayor, council members, I'm so glad to be here before you tonight, not talking about bonds. So this money was left over in the Webster Bank account. It's from the sale, from the purchase of the Travis Creek pump station. And as you can see in the cover letter, I tried to apply that to the council. I mean, who wouldn't? Seriously, I tried, and as a matter of fact, I tried again. But it wouldn't go, and even our bond counsel said you can apply it toward the interest in September. But why go ahead and send a check when I could send in the whole thing in September? So I'm just asking that the funds, the remaining funds, just be transferred into our water sewer fund.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A second? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Moving on, transfer of water sewer system fees to capital reserve system development fees.
It's state law. We gotta do it. It's state law.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the transfer of the fiscal year in 2022 and 2023 water system fees to capital reserve system development fees?
I'll make that.
Have a second? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Pat. All right, moving on to new business, letter A, consider code amendment, rules of construction.
Real briefly, this is coming from our diversity, equity, and belonging committee. What they've been doing is looking through our town code. And this initial item that they've brought forward deals with the way our code deals with the terminology of gender. Would you like to, Rosie, explain a little bit more as to where it came from and why you're proposing the change you're making?
Sure. This is a cursory review that we've done. And so there's lots more work to do, but in any case, the cursory review shows that the word person is used rather than any masculine term. So we proposed as the amendment, the words person, people, they or them shall extend to all gender identities. The wording that is there in the first place says a word according to masculine gender only shall extend and be applied to females and firms, partnerships, and corporations, as well as males. And we didn't think it was necessary to include firms, partnerships, corporations in the definition. And if after a closer look at the ordinance, there that just would be at the beginning, so we would have to go through and change everything. We had just been in the assessment phase of this committee, and this is just the first thing that became upon, so that's what we had at this point. There are other things that we're thinking of, but we're just in the assessment.
Easy
I
change.
have a couple of questions. This was tracked years ago. It talks about the use of gender. I guess there's terminology we've been accustomed to for years and years. Was this intended basically to say, even though it says human or whatever it may, or some masculine term throughout the document, was the intent to imply that it doesn't mean just a man, it could be a corporation, it could be a partnership? So I guess I'm wondering about removing the word partnership without seeing the whole context of how it's applied. Because if you're talking about individuals, yeah, you could say, well, maybe that's kind of ambiguous. But if you're talking about, it refers to ownership, partnerships, those are entities. They're not.
The way it's worded right now in our code, section 1.5 rules of construction. In the construction of this code, the following rules shall be observed unless the context clearly indicates otherwise. A, and or. Or may be read and may be read or if the sense requires it. B is gender. The word importing the masculine gender only shall extend and be applied to females and to firms, partnerships and corporations, as well as to males. C, number, a word importing the singular number may extend and be applied to several persons and things, as well as to one person and thing. And D, time, words used in the present or past tense include the future as well as the present and past. You're right. I mean, I think it's.
Well, I guess I think it's probably one of the most important documents we all operate under is the Constitution.
Yep.
And the first three words preamble is "we the people." That covers everybody. However you want to identify it as, if we use it refers to people.
Well, that's why she said, if we say the words person, people, they, or them shall extend.
Yeah, that's all it matters what their likes, preferences are. They're humans or people. I guess that's why. And striking out corporations, I'm not really sure if that's appropriate or not without seeing how it's applied. Because there are times where you refer to corporations, partnerships, maybe for ownership or whatever. So I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of things we can take out.
I mean, I just did a search for the word he in our code of ordinances, and our ordinances evidently assume that the town manager has to be a male, because it only refers to he. There is presiding judge as he, so I think it's a really good change. One of the things that when Diane first brought this to my attention, I said, how much is that going to cost? And I think that that's why it's being proposed as it is so that we don't have to rewrite everything immediately. It gives us some more flexibility in, that one statement out of the construction. So eventually, as we rewrite things, we can make those changes.
Yeah.
Because like each word that we change is like,
You get charged by the word, but yes.
yeah.
So I think what you're saying, Mark. So it's not definitely agree that the people, where they were, I want to find an example, the context of where he is used as a corporation or an entity. And there, because the beginning says he is corporation, so striking it, right? Are we taking out then a business, a corporation that says that, which I agree should also not masculine. But will people interchange? Will that word people, are they I would like to see through the ordinances, where a masculine term is used that is referring to.
My guess is that, not having read all these words recently, I would be surprised if when we use the term he, that it refers to a corporation. I think the intent is when we're enforcing part of our code on a corporation and the ordinance says he, we're applying it to the corporation as well. So I don't think we're saying it's how we apply the code. Not under United.
And I'm just reading my own. Town may determine that buildings are substandard and unfit for human habitation if he finds on the basis of the standards and requirements of fitness set forth in this chapter. So is that referring to the town as he?
Unless it refers to a code officer at a prior section.
Well, evidently every officer in the town. is So just so you know, Kelly, it clearly says he around police chief. Town manager. Right.
I mean, you could do a lot of wordsmith here, going back and edit it. You can spend a lot of time. I guess that's the question. How much do you want to make it accurate? How much do you want to go into the rules?
But the wrong to it, having people in daily. And yeah, recommendations, maybe not strike when the net is being used, people or they them, it also can refer to the corporation, just like it's announcing now that any masculine term is still referring.
I have one question really quick. And that is, like when we were doing stuff with with our policy book, we ended up having to go about just a quick legal review. Any legal review we need to do with this, or do we feel like this is our purview?
Certainly it's within your purview to make the change. I was working under the impression, I was out part last week. I was working on the impression before I left that we were going to schedule a public hearing on this. It was at the end of the week, we found out we didn't have to do a public hearing for this kind of a change. The words person, people, they or them shall extend to all gender identities. Probably makes sense, as you noted, to include and corporate and businesses, generic for corporation, partnership, or whatever. And we do use the term, the masculine term, which, you know, wherever it says he, we're replacing with, I guess that's where we're getting confused here, that the description is that we don't use the term, we don't use the masculine term, when in fact we do. So the words person, people, they, them, I don't know if you know, how far do you go, he, she, shall extend to all gender identities, businesses, corporations. And to get your point, Randy, I mean, if we wanted to just make sure that we're putting it together correctly, you know, we could certainly ask Bob to weigh in on it, so that we're not creating a, you know, exclude corporations, or we create an issue that we can't enforce our code against a business that may own a house as opposed to an individual.
That would be my deepest concern, because I really like the change. And I would be willing to vote for it. I'm just trying to figure out if we are getting, like you said, protecting ourselves.
My concern is if we start making changes without knowing the dominoes effect, and we start getting into other things, you discover that, oh, we did this. So now we have to go, I mean, this is process that was intended to be done in a year, I don't think. But I think what you've done is some great work, starting here. But for us to start changing each month when something is presented, not sure if it's productive without knowing the whole context. Just like you just did a word search throughout the whole time. I just did a word search in he. And so if you had to strike out the word he every time it's used, what would you replace that with? That would be understood. You could say he/she.
That's the thing, is that it's gonna change based off of each context probably,
Yeah. So if you imply that he refers to people,
but
whether it's male, female, corporation, you may want to leave it in there, but
I think he would switch to they or them. Yeah, that just calculate everybody. So,
so I show we have 52 of his. 20 mentions of he. There is also 22 mentions of her. 52 notes of she.
or
Or
52 his,
52 is.
52 times that are his.
20 he, 23 her, 3 she.
We have a junction where
It's really not that much though, if you think about it. You're paying by word. That's not a ton. And it's probably something that wouldn't take entirely too much time if the committee were to propose the replacement of those words. That's really better.
yeah.
that's the only thing I would say. Is we do. Can I ask the question? Did you feel like this was the most important first step? Is that what the committee, I mean, just in speaking for the, on behalf of the committee, did you feel like this was such an important change that it's needed to come to us at this time, or could we wait for a little bit deeper study? Have it all?
I think we can wait, but based on the, I guess, the town council action that was first put forth in 2022, it basically the ordinance and policy review committee for quality was created, and then developed following adoption of resolution. Now, the first goal was to evaluate municipal policies. That's why we started.
But I might add that you started with chapter 1, right?
Yes.
So you haven't gotten to chapter 2 and 3. So I guess I think that's what you're saying, is that should we try to chisel this away each chapter? Or I think that you're on the right track.
Mhm.
It's just that, is it really productive? Or without seeing what chapter 2, you may see something in chapter 2 that need to be replaced in chapter 1, and vice versa.
No, I think the committee would be fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want you to think what you're doing is wasting time. But I'll say, Douglas, I think, can't speak for us council, I'd like to see you go through several chapters and find those things that really stick out, that are pressed, and not try to take one step at a time approach. I think once you see the entire document, you're gonna have a better feel about, is it really meet the objectives? We just take it one chapter at a time. We may do something that didn't need to get done.
Well, the only other question I would have is, how big of a change did the committee feel this?
The committee felt that this was a really good starting point, and this was something that's very obvious and clear, as we just saw. So, in order to, I guess, feel like we're doing something productive, this was very obvious and spoke to the first thing we were asked to do. So that's why we brought it. However, there are other things that we are doing, and like I said, we're in the assessment phase, and so I feel like this is a good opportunity also to report to you how things are going, and that we are doing some things, and that we'll actually be back. Because there's a lot to this. Like you said, this will not be done in a year. Sure. So I think everybody will be okay tonight, we did not do anything, that's fine. But I think we need to have, I guess, a little bit of strategy about how we do it. So I guess we can be in touch with you guys on how we can do that and what we'll step.
I think my concern is we have to go back to our legal counsel and say, are we in line? Are we doing anything incorrect? Are making any changes? But I'm sure that's what you're gonna have to do. You're not just gonna make these changes arbitrarily. You're gonna seek guidance from legal counsel.
Guidance from legal counsel for, like, if we were gonna pass an ordinance that you can't, dig a hole in the town hall front lawn, we wouldn't have legal counsel to apply it. Is to say them or whatever is appropriate, but I do think that we need to go through and like find instances because it's going to depend on what it's referring to as what to change it to.
To the extent that we're going through and changing each reference here, you're right. Couple things. If you were to make this change tonight or in 2 weeks, whatever, we would send that off to our code company. They would not make changes. They only make them, we only send them in twice a year. So it's not like we're gonna send it to them every week if we're making changes every week. My only comment on going to talk to Bob had the issue of corporations and businesses. Do they still need to be incorporated? What does that look like? If we left them in there, you're right, I don't think we need to go to Bob.
And I think, to the committee's point too, on that is there any reference of gender that does tie in? I guess that's a question. Like, anytime that it references gender currently, is it ever referring to firms, partnerships, and corporations? Like, we have an ordinance about a female dog is neat in such a manner that she will be in contact with another dog. Like, that's probably where you would leave the she is, maybe, or, or the dog will be in. So, I don't think it's like real clear what you would change it to, but there may not be any instances. But I don't know that we can say that.
But I think their amendment would not even include anything. So this is just that when we do need to extend all gender, we should use the words person. That's what. And my question was about that corporation thing too, so I just need to say that was where I was at.
I was just filling with language a little bit. If you were of a mind to move forward on this tonight, that the words person, people, they, them, he, she shall extend to all gender identities, businesses, and corporations. Except we'd use the term he and she in the code. That's why I would include them.
Yeah, I thought the goal was to
Now, the request is to change the term of how we construct the code and just change that statement that it includes all genders.
Can we get some clarification? Because I know when I had talked to Diane about it, I don't think we've been at the last few meetings, but I mean, she asked about changing the references. So each entity.
But I would say if we change all the references, we don't need to change that introductory language.
Yeah, I think we just wanted the introductory language. We didn't. Because we thought that, I think,
Diane's point was about changing, when we were talking about changing with all of them, or council, about all the changes that would be part of that.
Right.
In that case, it would.
Yeah.
well, yes, I was gonna say that we were told that it would cost per word to change those things, and so that's what we came up with this. And I'm missing my co-chair here, who is the attorney on the committee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Our attorney.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yes.
And she actually came up with the language. And there is a reason that I'm not sure why she said, basically, she didn't think it was necessary to include firms, partnership, and corporation in the definition. But after a close look at the ordinance, there are any masculine references they could replace. Now, I guess this is probably not something we would just. But that's fine.
Based on what he said too, we're not gonna try to get the change for a few months.
Right. But your questions will give us information that we can go back and get clarification. Then you have a clear picture of exactly what will happen. What we would need.
I would like sure they have, you know, have the. Rose and this council is so diligent on how they are approaching this work. The passion and the amount of detail and what they're doing is phenomenal. So if we decide not to make a decision tonight, I do want to make sure that it doesn't get put on the back burner because they're working extremely hard. So that's what we decide. I would like it to be positioned in a way where we will either have some sort of decision at some point or something moving forward so that the committee feels like their actions aren't being overlooked. And I know that none of you would do that, but I'm just saying, if we could put some sort of timeline, that would be great, or at least talk to our attorney and then maybe be able to move forward.
Our next meeting is the first Monday of August, so we have time.
I do have one more question. So in terms of the verbiage for the amendment, is that designed to replace letter B entirely or be added to the end of letter B, which is the gender definition?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
And we can just
Yeah.
get that clarification.
And I will say, we had a chat, I think, from Diane, came through us from town of Elon, that the intent was, as I understand it, was to bring it to you to see if you wanted us to work up an actual ordinance change on this issue. I guess it wasn't intended that this be adopted as shown here, but rather, is this, you know,
I think it's
You can go to what I had, you got push it tonight. No, this is extremely. But I told it the police has got to be. Well, that's not what it's saying. It's saying if we're importing the masculine gender, only shall extend and be applied to females, firms, partnerships, corporations, as well as to males. So what it's saying is, if the word he is used, it applies to firms, partnerships, corporations, and females.
But what if it makes it better to read that and say she, you know, or like, that was her
You
requirement?
can say the same thing like the mayor, you say the same thing like town manager. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
So that's
So,
fine.
no, that's what makes it.
You know, I think, let's be honest, when these were written, it probably didn't include letter B, right? It said he and that's what it is. And that's fine, whatever. But now it's our opportunity to say, let's make it fresh, let's do it right. Let's make sure that if a little girl walks in here and she reads an ordinance, she learns that she can be the police chief or she can be, you know, the town manager. And I just, you know, so I get that it's covered already, but that was probably a late addition.
I think, so we really don't need to go any further tonight, or is there anything we should do?
I think we need clarification on if
Issue.
that verbiage was gonna be added to letter B, replace letter B.
I guess the question that I think I've heard the answer is that, yes, you would like Deb to pursue clarifying the articles of construction of our town code, to clarify the issues of gender and the corporations, make sure that they're referenced as need be, and do it this way perhaps, rather than going through and changing all the references and debating, as you know, how we word each one. that may come over time as we change other parts of town code. We can catch those gender specific issues and make them the neutral terminology that we're moving towards, or the all encompassing terminology we're moving towards.
Yeah, I think I agree with Monty and kind of answering it. So just going chapter to chapter or something like this. So if we'll put the timelines together, it'd be awesome, like every 3 chapters, kind of give a report, see if there's something that would be my recommendation. Or every chapter, right? Come and give us a review about what you're working on. And then instead of just bringing one item for us to try to vote on, like it'd be like, hey, we found these 5 or 6 things in these first 3 or 4 chapters. Just in perspective, all time, it's not here every time doing this pitch. But I really applaud the work. I'm very appreciative of it.
Good?
So,
So much. Letter B, water and sewer write-offs for fiscal year end 2019.
So each year before the council, it is asked of you guys to release these old debts. And in the cover sheet, you see what the process was for utility billing clerk. And as far as like a collection call is only as good as the phone number that's on the account. And as far as turning it over to NC debt set off, debt set off says it has to be more than $25. You have to have a social security number, and they have to be a resident of North Carolina, because that's where they capture the funds from, is on a tax return. So in 2018, with the attached paperwork, it was $6,116.82. And then end of 2019 was $5,053.19. So our total being for those 2 fiscal year ends is $11,170.01. And let me just also say, even though we're writing these off, the NC debt set off stays on there for 10 years. So we still have an opportunity to capture revenue back, but capture an old debt. So I'm just asking the board to release this debt.
Any questions?
You really don't have a choice. You're gonna spend money, you got $11,000, you're gonna spend 15 more.
Oh, absolutely. And our best tool, a lot of these accounts, when I was looking through them, I didn't realize I could include the names and everything until I was looking at old ordinances. But a lot of these accounts are students out of state. I didn't see a whole lot, it's mostly rental property.
So we don't require deposits.
We do require deposits.
So in this case, they didn't offset.
They didn't offset. Now, remember, we only went to monthly in November. So these figures you're looking here, are those bi-monthly invoices that were sent to the individuals.
How many accounts do you have? Let's.
Oh,
each year.
each year, well, this is,
34,
yeah, there,
and that one was 38.
38. So,
Do we not have the ability to hold the landowner responsible for that? So if it's a rental home, they have the student sign up for the water and whatever.
that would, as far as I understand, there were some property owners that would pay for the water or the rentals. They would just charge it for extra on the rent. But, of course, that wasn't very profitable for them. And so they made, in turn, part of their agreement that the person that's moving in, that's signing the lease agreement, has to apply for the water service. So as far as a property owner, I'm not familiar with that.
Do we have the ability to say that a rental property, the owner has to be a co-signer for the water service?
I don't know about co-signer.
They still could be out of state.
And these are rentals like these Parker sure, you know, there's very, I mean, larger organizations, I'm not sure. I mean, could we make them some? I'm not sure.
I raised the question a couple of years ago about billing the landowners, the property owners versus the tenants. My recollection is that there's some statutory issues that get in the way of doing that. We can certainly follow up and, you know, for future anyway, about whether we can move in that direction. But like I said, I think there were some statutory issues that precluded us from doing that.
So what is the deposit amount now?
$125.
So $125.
But see, when you had a 2-month water bill, $125, yes. But now that it's monthly billing, it would probably cover a majority of it, depending on the usage of the person. I mean-
And then we charge it against the deposit.
And through the process, you don't lose profit.
No.
So going forward, you don't anticipate seeing those $6,000.
I hope not. I mean, I don't think so, because of the way the system is set up now.
It's just older accounts, like
Yes.
older residents who didn't have a bond.
Well, if the one monthly bill was $250 and you only had $125 deposit, then
My question is, why couldn't we put a lien on that property?
Because it's not landlord's obligation.
We mow their grass, so it's like example, we mow somebody's grass, or have to do something, that's the landlord's responsibility.
Because this is a service that they are purchasing from us. And the way it's laid out is that the tenant is purchasing it, not the property owner.
and the water sewer fund is a for profit. You know, so we're hoping to see profits in that. And I just wonder if maybe there were some regulations having to do with, because it's a separate fund. It's not like the general fund or the cemetery fund.
So a landowner, I mean, could you put a lien on a landowner? For example, if the landowner lived there, residence, and they left, and decided not to pay the bill, wouldn't you be able to put a lien on the property? The account was in their name, the property's in their name.
I think, yeah, in that sense, it's like any other transaction.
It's really just renters.
Or in cases of a corporation that goes out of business. Because it'd be an unsecured debt, unlike property taxes, which are secured.
I think we have to change it.
On the motion, do I have
I
a second?
say,
All in favor, say aye.
Now, for the next part, I'd like to introduce Kayla Aldrin. She's been with the town since last August, and she is our payroll HR specialist. She's been doing a great job of resigning.
So I used to have paper copies. When I went back into my copy, it wasn't showing the right. So just to give a little background, I know some of these benefit changes were introduced to the personnel liaison committee. Just to try to add to what and make them more satisfied, increase retention, also employee capture. We then established a policy review committee where we sat down with the entire handbook on human resource policy procedures to try to review anything that needed to be updated or introduced. So take a look at that since the handbook hasn't been revised since May of 2020. So some of the changes or recommendations are pretty simple and straightforward. They're the ones. So I'm just kind of quickly kind of walk you through each of these.
Before you said, these are the issues we talked about during the budget process that we wanted to add into our benefit package. Putting them in the handbook is the your authorization to make those changes, and then we have operating policies that actually implement them.
So the first, recommendation would be under section 1.1, the town structure, would be updating the board of aldermen, town council. And it would also be updating the organizational chart. The previous one, there was some assistant town manager and departments listed under that, whereas this one splits it all out evenly. So that no longer exists.
I asked a question. Why wouldn't HR be under finances? That's collector.
Tax collectors. That was my assumption as to why it was listed in not every position.
Well, I guess the department is human resources. It just seems like, seems a lot of towns, obviously, we're not a small town. Very small town, but we don't list HR as a department.
It's part of finance.
And that's why I'll say, why would you not list it as a department? Finance. So the new employee gave me that, we have an HR.
I guess when we looked at the org chart, it was really listing the departments as opposed to the individuals. As you said, tax collector is a bit of an anomaly because that's an appointed position, even though it's not a department head position.
There's a little bit of responsibility in this input. You set finance director and have specifically written in. So since we haven't like specifically written in there much, I mean, I think it's time for everybody.
Not a problem to do it. I'm just giving you the logic of why it wasn't shown originally. We can certainly bring that in as another branch on the finance director.
The other finance, I wouldn't be under like you, so there is an HR issue. She doesn't report to that person. Then we go to you. Right.
Payroll side of things, HR stuff,
Yeah, I mean, there's some, yeah. I mean, does two different types of duties. From a day-to-day, gee, I need to take tomorrow off, I call in sick, what, I mean, that works under finance director.
So the HR/payroll, when they include, so we know that there's a group, an area within the town. That have had concern about the payroll. Change of address or some sort of deductions. You would at least say, yeah, we have HR/payroll administrator.
Are you thinking like an employee right now?
Well, it's a function within the town, just like
I'm just saying, this is an employee handbook, so you're trying to.
this is a plan. If you were new to town, came as a employee, you would know, we have police chief, we have police department, we have public works.
But we also have detectives,
Well, it's under, some police department,
we also have AP.
council, as under finance. Where does HR come in? Who would know that?
Well-
You know, Tom.
Well, that's what
Brady does.
I think that's what we're trying to get at, is how deep would go.
Well, I'm not saying go to every level, I'm saying there's a function.
And like I said, we can certainly add HR payroll as a branch under finance director. That's
We
fine.
told us we want to add this role,
Mhm.
even though it's a part-time role.
Well, and I think it's important because we address in here that supervisor and human resource specialist will provide detailed information. Who is that human resource specialist?
Okay.
But again, it should be an easy fix.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something you can discuss.
Yeah, I mean, in the old one, it had under finance director, utility building, tax collector, and county specialist. Separated out.
And those are the only non-department head positions that we showed in the org chart. And like I said, we can certainly add HR payroll on the finance director. That helps clarify it.
Makes us look bigger.
We want to stay a small town.
on to section 2.2 probationary period for new employees. The beginning after 6 months, our police department and our department has for a 12-month probation period. So we can act for 6 months or 12 months, depending on what position. Section 310. And the same thing, with section 313, replacing finance director. That's who handles those types of issues. Looking at employment of relatives in section 315. We were trying to take from the word of immediate family, because people define that differently. So currently it talks about immediate family and members of the same household. So we have that same idea, change the term to relatives or residents of the household. And then as far as defining them underneath, instead of listing out every single person or family member, we summarized it to spouse or domestic partner, parent, guardian, children, sibling, and grandparent, plus the various combinations of half, step, in-law, and adopted relationship.
Does that say we can rate it as we could have dad who's working his that would be public work. Dad, what about? Okay, I'm not.
And that's not changing anything that we haven't had in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, just reading it was like, yeah, I guess I get it some places, but.
And it does cause a bit of, can cause a heartache in certain professions that are familiar with professions. Think of firefighters and some police officers where that becomes the family business. In a large department, it's easy enough to manage that. In a small department, it gets really difficult when you have relatives working together because there's constant interaction. We can, yeah, I mean, we can manage it somewhat by shifts or locations in terms of the fire department, but even that's not a guarantee. So.
Next. Revision would be section 5.2 and 5.3. Currently under our overtime pay, it says the town's established work week ends at midnight on Sunday and ends at midnight on Saturday. Not correct. So just to try to make it more understanding, as far as we decided to go with under timekeeping procedures, just that a typical work week is Monday to Sunday. And obviously our payroll runs for 2 weeks, but trying to explain that the following Sunday it's at midnight, that's just a little bit easier understanding. And then further down under overtime pay, as far as what's considered actual working hours, we do consider holiday regular working hours, because those are days that people are, that they have to take off work. So like for your admin positions or your public works, is a little different for fire and police because if they work basic time. But if they happen to get overtime in that week, we count that 8 hours of holiday because they were essentially forced to. But in the event where vacation, sick leave, or comp time be included in those hours. So that's why we scratched out a holiday. Moving over to section 6.5, supplemental voluntary insurance coverage. This was just a little updated because we currently only have our supplemental coverages were vision and disability. We do offer more than that to our employees. We do offer voluntary life, and then we do offer the healthcare flexible spending account along with dependent care flexible spending account.
And that all that information is provided at the new hire orientation.
You know, I have a question on life insurance.
Yes.
Is this town funded or is this life insurance they have the opportunity to purchase?
The town does fund a life insurance policy 1.5 times.
So we don't state that here because it's stated where.
And like the benefit booklet that they get.
And under 6.3, we do, it does say we provide.
Just says covers all eligible.
Oh, okay.
Insurance is payable in event of. It doesn't mention how premiums. Okay. And the purposes.
Right. There's a benefit sheet that explains, what it is. The difference is this year or last year, we added voluntary life, so employee can actually purchase additional life insurance that the town doesn't pay for. And so we're just clarifying that voluntary life is also available.
I guess we've been clear, we covered 1 year's annual salary, but you have the opportunity to purchase. additional coverage, right?
Yes.
Then section 6.12, tuition reimbursement, we're recommending increasing the limit from 1,000 to 2,000 per year for eligible expenses. And then, yes, 6.15 is the Magnolia Cemetery plots. So these are available to the employees at the resident rate of $600, but they must be. Two must be purchased.
Is that a standard protocol that two must be purchased?
That's how it's set up, yeah.
Cemeteries do that.
So if you dial them,
More space to
Really?
spread out.
Elbow room.
I mean, that's not very inclusive in my opinion, but maybe the dev needs to review that.
You can
I
sell
mean-
them. You can sell one at once.
You can't without the town involved.
Sell your plot.
Yeah, the town has to be involved in the selling of your plant.
You can choose there, but be very.
We have to know who it's sold to, just so when somebody is claiming to use it, there needs to be that paperwork.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't,
We don't approve it.
I don't believe we're in the approval process or collect anything. We don't collect anything on it when it's transferred.
We don't have like right.
No, no.
So our time off benefits, probably where we make most recommendations as far as holiday, we added in Juneteenth. We recognize that it wasn't in the list. As far as vacation time, we were looking at trying to essentially get to a very national birthday staff program. 20 years, so we change less than 2 years, it stayed the same as 10 days, 2 years, but less than 8 years. Go ahead and get 15 days. 8, but less than 15, we get 20, and greater than 15, we get 25.
I have a question about that. Was there a reason that the group wanted to stay with like those 5-day increments? Because, I mean, when you hit that 5-year mark, you still have 3 more years left before you get any more vacation time. That's a long time. I mean, so right now, so you're a 5-year employee, right? You get 15 days of PTO or vacation time,
3 weeks.
right?
Mhm.
But, well, no, you only get 10. If
Must
you
be.
work there for 5 years, you get 10 vacation days.
Currently,
I get 15 now.
the what? Currently, you're at 2 weeks for up until you complete 10 years.
Oh, okay. So once you hit 2 years, you get 15.
You
All
have
right,
8
so I guess
years,
that's
you,
probably not the best example. Let's say you're at 11. I don't know, it just seems like a lot of time between when you get more time. So I just wondered, was there a purpose?
Pretty soon.
it's,
We train them.
Well, I shouldn't tell you all that. new hires in my company get 24. So, just saying.
PTO or is that?
It is PTO.
Okay, yeah, our time accrues,
Yeah.
our sick time accrues, vacation
And you
time.
don't necessarily have to be sick to take sick time.
And you get a week.
You're supposed to be, but
You can pay 240 days. Right?
You can carry 240 from year to year.
It's 240 hours.
Not days.
I mean, yeah, I forgot that like sick is separate from vacation. And then how does it work with the milestone years? So just on year 5, you get an extra 5 days,
Yes.
just as like a.
Yep.
Okay. That was my question.
So that would be for both vacation and sick leave. So when you hit those 5, 10, 15, 20, if you're on your anniversary date, you would accrue that extra premium.
And the sick time, when you retire or leave public service, is paid out.
No.
No.
Vacation is paid.
Vacation is paid out. Sick time rolls into
Your
your earned or your worked time that
Okay.
then gets computed in your North Carolina retirement. And if somebody has more than 240 hours of vacation time at the end of the fiscal year, anything above that rolls into sick time.
And moving over to compensatory leave, 7.4. Our current wordage said that you have to use this before vacation or sick leave. Not sure when it comes to payroll and whatnot, so it's actually, you only have to use it before holiday or vacation hours. Only sick you use it. Bereavement, this was another one where we tried to clear up some of the wordage and also, draw a line between immediate family and extended family. So we're looking at doing 40 hours for what we would consider immediate family in this definition, and then 24 hours for extended family. And we talked about the different departments and how their hours are different than ours, and just the way that their shifts would fall on the time that they would take off. The departments at being about the same amount of days off.
My comment here is there is a big push on a national scale to ensure that every bereavement policy includes pregnancy loss. So I would like to see that.
And we essentially kept the wording the same. We just clarified the extended family that refers to aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, cousin, and any in-laws. And then moving on to 7.13, that's our currently we have this name as parental leave. As a committee, we talked this over and kind of wanted to tie in this a little bit more with community service volunteer type of leave. So we tried to rename it to parental school and community leave. Currently, we had it at 4 hours, so we were up against 8 hours. So this allows you to either volunteer, go to sit your at children's school, or if you want to get involved in some sort of community program, that kind of thing. It would just need to be approved by the department. And
Is that per child? That's over 8 hours.
total 8 hours.
Or the,
Per year.
Last line, leave the subject to the 3 following conditions. We added a 4th one.
Yeah, that was the one I was saying, how that one is contingent upon department approval. Just making sure that the time off aligns with the codes of conduct, not only for the town, but also for the department.
We need to change 3 to 4.
There's still 3.
This leave is subject to the 3 following conditions.
Oh, you're talking about the number. Okay,
Yes,
gotcha,
we need to
gotcha.
change it to 4 following conditions.
I have a question about this one and what is referred to as paid maternity and paternity. So on 7.13, couldn't we just offer or service to community leave, community service leave, something where, like, why would we only offer that to parents? why wouldn't we offer that to someone who's not a parent who wants to go volunteer 8 hours a year?
I don't know that we are limited to parents.
Yeah, parental school and community leave.
All employers to grant leave annually to each employee who is a parent, guardian, or person standing in lieu of parentis.
That's
To
just
attend
too
school
small.
activities.
Like you want to see a grandchild.
Like, to me, I still feel like, oh, that doesn't pertain to me, because it's, I just think that could be rewritten to not say parental, because in my opinion, 7.14 should be parental leave. You should not use maternity and paternity.
Well, I think 7.13, it doesn't change. So I have my nephew's graduating here. That's standing in line up there with those parents, or his guardian, or his parent. I don't get that leave.
I would say, I mean, we don't have to have that verbiage in there about general statute, right? Can you just say like, as a means to encourage volunteerism among our town staff, like all employees get 8 hours a year for community service, and these are the specifications.
I think it's important somewhere in there that we also, because we're required to provide the 4 hours under state statute for parents to do things in the schools. Now, maybe we leave that section alone and add community leave, which is an additional set of hours that's available to all employees.
Or you could have an asterisk at the bottom, this complies with the
We could do that as well.
general statute.
Yeah.
1-2. Just to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
But
So
then,
it sounds like we're gonna be open to making some changes.
Or approve it, and we'll bring it. I mean, some of these policies are, we want to start them.
Yeah, I know.
So I mean, if we need to bring this back for some clarification in 2 weeks, we can certainly do that. Not that we're gonna have anybody with, has a baby in July. But I didn't get caught with a new policy that isn't quite implemented yet.
could we adopt with proposed changes? And then you just bring us back the
Yeah,
proposed changes to
that's fine.
confirm that that's what it is?
That's fine, yeah, just reference as a condition of your approval, yeah.
Okay.
Again,
Yeah,
this is your policy, so yeah, we
So
can,
I think if you'll just make call it whatever you want, take out parental out of 7.13, make it community leave open to anybody to engage in the community. And ask that use the specifications for statute, whatever. And then 7.14 should be paid parental. Because you don't have to establish maternity.
I think we were caught because of the language the state used for parental leave.
So for the paid maternity now, parental leave, that would be allowing them to request up to 8 weeks of paid leave. It obviously has to be used within 12 months of the date of the qualifying event, so that would be birth of a child or legal placement, adoption, foster, any of that sort of relationship or parental responsibilities. This is to be used consecutively at one time, and it would run concurrently with FMLA. That would leave them with 4 weeks of their own time. Then in the
That's a good move. So that's it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Request for all the changes.
We also wanted to try out paid elder care leave to care for a parent or guardian. This would be up to 3 weeks of leave. It does not have to be consecutive, but it does have to be used within that 12 months of qualifying event.
what is the qualifying event in this case? The qualifying events include the care of a parent, grandparent, or legal guardian. But not saying that this would happen, but again, I work in HR, so give you an example, right? Somebody, we call it caregiver leave. So which might be another conversation, but so with ours, caregiver leave is if someone has a serious illness or requires care. We do require that they have medical documentation, but like right now, this is obviously covering a parent, but what about if your child is diagnosed with cancer and needs to seek treatment? Like, what options do you have there? You know, so just a thought. But like, what is the qualifying event? And how does someone say, oh, you know, I need to go take care of my mom, she lives in so far time, and I go, you know, every other long weekend.
Since it would fall into FMLA, we would have to have some sort of medical report for that.
It does raise the question, obviously, parental leave, typically it's every 9 months you have a child. So it can only happen every 9 months. You have 12 months to utilize those 8 weeks. In the event of a paid elder care leave, what is it, how often could you do that? Obviously, so limited to 3 weeks. If you took your 3 weeks, is that 3 weeks within a 12-month period? You could claim that?
FMLA is a floating 12 months.
Yeah.
So if somebody used their 3 weeks in January, they would not be eligible again until the following January.
Right.
If they used a week in January and a week in October, I mean, they could break it up, but you wouldn't see them using 6 weeks within any 12-month period.
Yeah, it's up to 3 weeks together. I believe like per rolling year, or something like that. You know?
I guess I'm more concerned about the departmental standpoint, how you manage. You have written verification on that, but, you know, it could easily, I mean, if you've got both parents and you've got to take advantage of 3 weeks, and then you got to take, and you're sharing that same responsibility. How often within a year could you utilize that, those 3 weeks?
Just once.
Just once, and then next year you use 3 weeks.
And listen, there are some people in other countries that shall not be named that they have to get 12 weeks of FMLA. At the same time, right, if you have an ailing child, an ailing parent, how productive are you in the workplace anyway? You know, if you're constantly worried about what's happening with my mom while she's at home alone, you know, whatever. Or you're at work and you can't be with your child who's, you know, having surgery or getting chemo, like, you're not gonna be there that day. You might be filling a seat, but you're not there.
So your suggestion is not elder care?
I suggest caregiver leave. And I can send you an example.
Does that count as not, daughter has a fever?
No, it had, our policy,
FMLA eligible.
we don't require that, but in this case, it's easier for the town to require FMLA because it's easier to administer that way. Ours, we don't, but we say serious health condition. We do require it. But we also have other policies on that, so FMLA.
And a bit more staff.
And more.
And if your child is sick and you stay home, you take sick time.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
I mean, it's that fever versus chemo.
Thanks for the work on this.
Yeah, just as far as,
Good stuff.
yeah, under 8, you were just changing. I'm sorry, under 7, we were changing.
Just human resources.
Oh, yeah, and now I'm one adding human resources, and then the town manager, that way if something needed to be handled without directly taking it up to the town manager. But yeah, I think I may have skipped over under family medical leave of absence and the military reserve, that was another instance of crossing out finance director.
You want us to entertain a approval with some of these changes that gives them changes? You want to approve it?
Do you
Yeah.
need this before 2 weeks from now? or anything?
Probably not. Like I said, it's,
Can we vote to take up a vote in 2 weeks, and then anything that isn't in effect for those 2 weeks can be considered legacy, and we can go backward if needed?
or you can approve it as amended on the floor tonight, and we'll bring you a clean copy in 2 weeks. If we need to amend it again, we will. If we have to make any corrections.
All in favor, say aye. Unanimous, motion carried. All right, next on the agenda is discussion, which is new. So what's the discussion?
Nothing.
I thought, I wondered, because in the past, there was some thought about July. Sometimes being a month, which
Yeah,
sometimes we might not do a meeting, depending on what's gonna happen. That's why we kept talking about this 2 weeks. So just was wondering, is there any? The planning commission is not, planning committee is not. usually in June.
They're not meeting in July. They're not meeting in June.
They're not meeting in June.
You don't think
but there
anything
are
right-
things that,
Probably not meeting in July. No. They're
Do
not.
you have anything that you could?
Whatever would go to them in June would come to you in July. So I'm definitely not carrying anything to you in July from the planning board in June. That's what you're asking.
I was just wondering what- Right now, my schedule is that I absolutely positively can be here on July 16th.
it's the 11th.
Whatever the last, I'm sorry, I meant the last. What was the?
24th, I think it is.
I can't be here. But I can be here on.
Or the 11th.
Or the 11th.
I get my
I would say the
June.
9th, yeah, but that's. Yeah, 11th. Yes, I'm not, I could be here on the 11th. I just wanted to know if you guys, I'm not going to. If you all wanted to, we were gonna be playing around with any of those meetings.
We got 2 gone on July 24th.
Yep.
We're all gonna miss it.
Except Quinn.
I guess if it's not following the week of the fourth, which is typically like you do off. And the second Tuesday is in 11th.
Well, and that's the thing is that we used to always cancel a meeting in July, but that's because it was on the week of July 4th.
Right.
Now it's not. So, I mean, if there's nothing on the agenda, then I think that's one thing, but
I'll say, other than items from the planning board, which kind of have a statutory process they need to move through. Most anything that I can think of offhand, we have some flexibility as to when it comes up. So, for instance, if you decided you didn't want to meet on the 24th, we know there's nothing coming from the planning board, but we can just manage any of the staff items to bring up first meeting in August. That's entirely up to
I
you.
think a work meeting is kind of those things where we discussed that it could be flexible. If we need to have it, we would. It's a work session. I'm not as opposed to canceling that one. I would like to keep the second Tuesday as consistent as we can, unless it is a conflict with holiday.
I'm fine either way. I did just look like extra.
I just want to kind of have a forecast.
All right, so you're out on the 24th,
I'm out for sure on the 24th.
you're out on the 24th. You're out on the 11th, anybody else out?
I can be here on the 11th, but I'm gonna be 2 hours away and I can drive back and go back. I just didn't, we have a quorum,
Well, we still
Yeah.
have a forum.
and there's nothing, I mean, well, I'll be watching.
Do we have to decide right now? We do, because we have to give.
The 11th to the 24th is 13 days. So
Rich, I have one more question. You guys have no more emergency, like, or any kind of budget amendments right before the end of the fiscal year that we have? We've taken care of all those now?
yeah, squared away. Yeah.
So now we're at the beginning of the fiscal year, so it's anything that coming up. We will need to have done.
Not that I can think of specifically that either we have it ready for you on the 11th, or we can wait till August probably.
We cleaned our plate tonight, I don't.
Lori, we didn't have anything that was going to be presented from the 11th meeting, was it?
No, not in July. We're still reviewing some changes. And we also need to have public input before it goes to planning board and then council. So
What's the downtown proposal?
Jill's proposing it in August sometime. I want to say the first August meeting, but I think that was dependent upon the consultant. But that's done.
Tentatively on August 8th, I think it is, we have a presentation on the downtown plan. That was the schedule Jill was trying to put together.
Is this discussion time?
I think Ray's right. The intent of it was, and I'm not sure why it ended up on the agenda, but the intent was to talk about schedules for the summer.
So could you just say that we're not planning a meeting in July, and then something comes up, we can always. have a special meeting.
We frequently canceled the first meeting in July when it was the first Monday. Because obviously that usually was around the 3rd or the 4th somewhere.
Why don't we compromise and just forego our second meeting, Monday meeting? Sounds like you're gonna be away, some other people can be away. If we don't have work session items, we'll probably need to meet.
You can meet on the 11th,
Meet on the,
but if we have very little to meet on,
Right.
you can let us know. I mean, I can make my decision that way, like, there's nothing earth shattering.
Okay, we
I can miss and
certainly,
you still have a forum.
I'd have to go back. What do the rules say if we're gonna, for lack of business? Do we still need 2 weeks?
it's not like we haven't had 10-minute meetings before.
Yeah, well, there's
You didn't ask so many questions.
Yeah, I think we need to have, well, aren't we required to have one public comment a month?
I think we're required to schedule a regular meeting every month.
Yeah.
Whether,
I'm fine with that.
So you're gonna do July 11th.
Rich,
And I, yeah.
Rick?
I'm good with that, so I can take it off my calendar and,
hello.
While we're in
you know, I
discussion,
live by
Can you hear
the.
me?
I wanted to.
Why can't they hear me?
discuss, Link Transit.
Yep.
I don't know if there's been any progress. For the routes. I mean, there's a twofold a load. And so we have a bus stop right there. And like literally right at that intersection. So that's just a concern. I don't know if there's anything we can do. I've had most of the residents around there, but what can you do about these accidents? And I know it's a state road, so we can't just do something. But that bus stop being there, Addie and I got on it when we came to downtown. That's where we were at. And I'm not taking her up. Literally an accident every other. Maybe not literally, maybe every other.
Maybe metaphorically.
I mean, I would love to know some of the data this last month, because they are always there.
I think the thing to forget is school buses traverse that road twice a day. Obviously, it's in the morning and afternoon. The differences are they have stop warning signs. So we entrust our children to get on the bus along Williamson. Certainly adults, majority adults. And I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree.
Well, it would be
I think
different
we
if it
need to
was a
revisit.
stop.
I think we need to visit the stops. You know, that changed, the route that changed when we first talked about this. And there was misunderstanding about this side of the street or that side of the street, where the stop would be. And that was changed on the trip.
I think that's my issue. If it was still just one spot on Williamson.
Yeah.
For
Do
both,
you have any idea what kind of accident would be just people
like our
trying to
accidents
come
just
up, trying to
constantly-
turn into traffic and hitting somebody?
Yes.
Anything mainly what's going on?
But yeah, it's the two stops, because they're inbound, you're on flagpole side of the street. Go outbound, you're having to go to the telephone pole in front of the church. So it's just really. I won't do it when we start riding it. That's scary. But also, can we do anything about the accidents? Like, can we make that a four-way stop right now? What we want to do? I know it's a weird.
So no, we'd have to get them,
The DOT, like, we can make that request.
Yeah. we could certainly ask them to evaluate it.
I mean, I would really like to take a bus and getting tires on to have a picture. Another one. And, you know, we said it.
The most recent was failure to stop sign. I mean, we can't prevent that,
Yeah, we can't prevent those.
but we do see that quite a bit there. Because they're impatient, they're waiting, it's hard place to turn left or right. Traffic is abundant, and they take chances and they dart out.
So it's just four-way. Which would back up. I mean, sometimes it is terrible backed up, even with schools in section, past Westgate. So I don't know the answer, but man. Discuss.
We could ask DOT to take a look at the accident history there.
Yeah.
And if there's not improvements they can make.
And are we still on track for that road 2029 to have turning? Like
That was not approved
that's
um,
about it.
by the state. I think that was part of the submission we made for this.
We submitted
Yes.
for spot 7.0 for South Williamson to be widened along with bike lane. And I can't remember, was it multi-purpose lane or?
With turn lanes as necessary. That's 26 to 35.
Right.
Okay, so that's the time frame that this next.
Closer to 30, 35.
Transportation plan states long range.
These are those, are the all right, we ready to move on to the reports? All right, you're good. Stephanie?
Just want to tell everybody, thank you, and thanks for the patience. Working through, that's, appreciate it.
Not much. I know Saturday, this past Saturday, indoors music. They did on their pay. They had a good little turnout. So I hope to see kind of more of that. And I think the plazas start earlier than we expected, so I'm really excited. Hopefully we can have all music. Think so?
They have 154 days to complete the project. Which if they take all 154 would take it into November. But hopefully they'll get it done sooner.
The green committee or the environmental committee is not meeting in June, so. I really don't have much else to say other than just been seeing a lot of good results with that stuff. It's spectacular seeing that stuff. It's what you've been through.
Had the opportunity this week along with 3 staff people, Phyllis, Lori and Jill, to attend a presentation by North Carolina Railroads Company, which is quite fascinating. There's a lot of history there. And what they do today is much different than what they did in the past, but it did give us an insight about what their plans are, you know, as far as expansion and so forth, and how it might impact us. Obviously, it's one of these things, they throw it out there, whether the federal government allows them to do or not. But if it meant widening to 2 lanes here, you know, what would that do to the makeup of our town? How would it change? How would it fit in? How would we work around? Those are things we'll have to constantly be aware of. And obviously, Phyllis has been in contact with them about the possibility of a greenway along the border there, so making progress there. So that was a good use of my time. I think staff would agree there as well. Appreciate everybody showing up for the Park East. I think I hope once we see the Park West project start, it'll create some more enthusiasm and excitement about what Elon can be, and not what they're afraid it's going to be. So, I'm glad to have Stephanie back live in person.
Nothing to add. Awesome prayer, so hope you start feeling.
I don't have. Welcome back. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
We've had so much fun, we didn't want to adjourn.
And she hung up on my phone because I had called her, she wanted to go on speaker.